What is your best piece of advice for the next generation's influencers?
You got to work your butt off. If you think that you're going to go and accomplish something really special and be the best in anything in the world, and you think you can do it without working, you make a big mistake. Because no matter what I did, if it was in bodybuilding or in acting or if it is in the political arena, it always took a lot of work. And you got to put out, and you got to, sometimes make a lot of sacrifices. Notice, if you're not willing to work hard, forget about it. So there's another rule that is very important.
You got to have a plan. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody's got a goal. What's the plan? And your plan has got to have something I call the C5 complex. Your plan has got to be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You got to have a plan. And when you're trying to do something that you're truly passionate about, there is no plan B.
Okay.
Plan B sucks.
All right. Okay, so it's as simple as that.
You got to have a plan. I mean, think about that for a second. 3 examples. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. Oprah Winfrey became the queen of all media because she was committed to plan A, not plan B. Whatever your politics are, Barack Obama is sitting in the White House because he was committed to plan A, not plan B.
Okay.
Plan B sucks.
Most people have great goals. I want to increase my income and lose weight and get out of debt and be thin and happy and healthy and have a wonderful family. But then they decide, but before I start, I'm going to take a vacation to a beautiful place called Someday Isle. And in my estimation, 80% of the population lives on Someday Isle. Someday I'll lose some weight, and someday I'll read that book and listen to that program and join the Yes Network, and someday I'll get out of debt, someday I'll increase my income, but it's always Someday Isle. If you want to be a great success, there's one simple rule, is vote yourself off the island for life. If you decide you're going to do something, do it. You know, they've done dozens and dozens of studies over the years. They find that there's one major difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Is successful people launch. They start. They get on with it. They just do it. Unsuccessful people get the same ideas and the same information, but they've always got an excuse for not starting.
I get up super early. Generally, I have this thing where I like beating the sun up, not just in terms of before the sun comes up, I have to get up. And how do I do it? It's just important to find balance, and I try and do things really that I really enjoy doing. And a lot of times, it's like in life, right? Life brings like drama, and you got to deal with this person, and a funky relationship here, and all these things. You try and just kind of balance them out as best I can.
You need to care about everything, and it starts with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I want to do every day for the rest of my life? Do that. I promise you can monetize that shit. If you love Alf, do an Alf blog. You collect Smurfs, Smurf it up. Whatever you need to do it. So many people are talking about, I can't monetize. There's a billion 70-year-old douchebags that are in control right now. But the number 2 person, that 34-year-old lady, she's gonna buy your shit. She's gonna put the advertising on your stuff. It's coming. Stop crying and just keep hustling.
Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Yeah, well, it's not that easy to tell the truth because who knows about the truth, but you can learn not to say things that you know to be false. And if you stop saying things that you know to be false, then your life will improve a lot. It simplifies it, and it puts you in alignment with reality. And you should be in alignment with reality because there's a lot more of it than there is of you.
Well, most successful entrepreneurs have gone bust, right? Yeah. Henry Ford, an old-time entrepreneur, he went bust 5 times. Okay, you look at Steve Jobs, his own board fired him. Bill Gates was taken before the Supreme Court for monopolistic practices.
Right.
Even my friend Donald Trump went down $1 billion.
Yeah.
I only went down $1 million. So the average person is so afraid of those losses, they never get ahead. Because at school they teach you if you make a mistake or if you fail, you're a failure. But that's not real life. A baby learns to walk by standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down. And our school system punishes you for making mistakes. That's why my poor dad, an academic, was so unsuccessful. He was terrified of making mistakes.
One of the big challenges for having a unique idea and then taking it through to fruition is always hard, right? It's never easy. There's always people who are going to question you. And being able to take that first step and fight through all the naysayers, you know, it's a process, but once you start to get traction, whether it's Uber, Lyft, whoever it may be, you know, and you're taking steps that nobody else has, that's when you really have to fight. And you know, now, particularly where we don't have an administration that's particularly tech literate, I think there's going to be new challenges. And so the companies that are emerging today, maybe some of them are here at South by Southwest, you know, maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but still there's no less need and it's no less important. You know, it's as the world changes, and I think it's going to change more over the next 10 years technologically than it has the past 30. We're going to need people to disrupt and make the world better.
I know that everybody's problem comes down to one pattern you're repeating that you can't see. And that pattern is getting triggered by something that happened in your past that left you with this emotional scar. And so for me, the thing that I always, always, always have to deal with in myself is the fear of disappointing somebody. So if I'm in a situation where I start to feel that, it's an old trigger. And so when you finally have a word that describes in a visceral way this thing you hate about yourself or this thing that triggers you or whatever it may be, that's where the power comes, because now you can name the thing that was once controlling you. And so if you can identify, first of all, the pattern you keep repeating that makes you miserable or doesn't serve you or makes you lose your power or has you go numb, then you can start to go back and say, well, where did I first start doing this? And what was the experience that triggered it? Because that's the root of the problem right there. And when you expose all of that, the trigger and the emotional button, like I'm afraid of disappointing people, I'm afraid of disappointing people, I'm not worthy, you know, I'm pissed off that this is happening to me. Now you have the ability to change it forever.
Discipline I had to get into was I always pay myself first, even when I had no money. And when I have all these bill collectors calling me, I use them as inspiration. You know what I mean? Really? Oh. When they're hounding, the government's hounding you, bill collectors calling, because I've been broke, so I can understand what it feels like to be broke. When those guys are calling you, instead of, you know, shrinking and going into the shell and eating my pizza, I use it as motivation to go out and make more money. So I use my bill collectors as motivation, and that's why I paid myself first, even though sometimes I wasn't paying.
What would you pay yourself?
I always bought assets. I'd buy a house or I'd put money in the bank and things like this, but it was just a habit. Exactly what you're talking about. It's up here.
It's about changing the way you think. That's what the whole book is about.
That's it, because we're our biggest asset, we're also our biggest liability.
Passion is not an actionable word. It's correct, you know, that those who do the things that they're passionate about do better, but it's not helpful advice. And so the question is, where does passion come from? Passion is a result. Passion is an energy. Passion is the feeling you have when you're engaged in something that you love. Passion is the feeling you have that you would probably do this for free, you know, and you can't believe somebody pays you to do it, you know? And I think we mistake that passion is something we do in our private lives, but it shouldn't be done, you know, in our careers, for example. And I'm a firm believer that you are who you are. And anybody who says, I'm different at home than I am at work, in one of those two places, you're lying. And the goal is to make everything you do in home and at work something that you have excitement to do. So how do you find the things that you're excited to do? Well, it's actually easier than you think. What are the things that you love to do? What are the things that you would do for free? You know, how can you recreate that feeling and be paid for it? So what are the things that I do on the weekend, right? I love, I'm very involved in the art world. I love to go to museums and galleries, but I love to go see dance and performances because I want to see how others are interpreting the world. So that inspires me. New ideas, new thoughts, new ways of looking at the world are things that interest me privately, and I seek it out and pay money for it, right? So does that mean I have to have a career in the arts? No, it means I have to have a career where new ideas are explored, where people are experimenting and trying things out, and I have to explore new ideas and try things out, and I'm just as excited to go to work every day as I am to, you know, go do something on a Saturday night. And so the idea of finding your passion is ironically simple because you should be doing stuff that you enjoy sometimes. What is the stuff that you enjoy, and then what is the stuff that you love? Who are the people that you love, and what do they all have in common?
You got to get some haters. You need haters. No school is going to teach you how to get a hater. Okay? High school, elementary school, colleges, what do they teach? You want to be the most popular person. No, you want haters. Okay? The companies that are hated are the companies that are exploding. The people that are hated are the people that explode. If I don't hate you, if nobody hates you, nobody knows you. So the reason I'll tweet, for instance, when we started, we had this that newsletter that I sent out, okay? We sent it out every week. We were hitting people once a month, and we started getting complaints. You send stuff out too much. My office came to me. We went to twice a month. They came to me. We have more people pulling off of the newsletter. Good. Double up again. Why? I want haters. Okay? So we started sending out one every week, and then I started a Twitter account. I actually had people write, Grant Cardone, social media people, Grant Cardone is an example of what not to do with social media. I said, freaking, just multiply. Just increase it, okay? We were doing like 4 tweets a day. Good, do 2 an hour. Why? Because I want my competition hating my guts. I want them talking about me. I mean, I don't really want people to hate me. You understand what I'm saying about? I want them so energized that they actually start pushing me. They start promoting me.
Many people have this idea, I want to achieve something great. Or be somebody great, and they neglect the step that leads to greatness. They don't honor this step at this moment because they have this idea of some future moment where they're going to be great.
Right.
Some people believe I'm doing great work. I mean, I am, because the consciousness is moving through this form. I don't feel personally responsible for what I do as such. But even there, it is small steps. When the writing happens, there's a notepad and a pen, and there's the present moment, and there's the stillness, very small. There's not some idea, I'm going to create a work that's going to change everybody's consciousness. No, I'm just true to this moment. What is this moment requires? It's a blank sheet of paper, and a pen, and a stillness. It's a small thing. It's all a sequence of very small moments. And by being true to the small moment, something great arises.
Think big, because then you're going to get big. Then you're going to go and achieve big things. That is the most important thing. You know, we don't achieve big things by accident. So shoot for the top, shoot for the sky, shoot for the, for the stars.
I love being a drummer. It's such a nice position in a band. Everyone thinks you're dumb. What they don't realize is that if it weren't for you, their band would suck. You know, I've always loved being the drummer. I don't necessarily need to be the dude out front. I never imagined myself a front man. At the same time, I don't mind bringing the party to 85,000 people at the lip of the stage, being the front man of the band. It's nice to have both, you know, there's that balance between the two. Where if you ever start feeling like nobody's paying attention to me, well then you be the singer of the Foo Fighters for a while. And when you're like, God damn, I'm sick of all this bullshit, back to being the drummer of the Vultures or whatever.
Too many of us for a long time have confused our net worth and our self-worth. Your net worth is going to fluctuate. It's going to go up and down. That's what money does. But your self-worth should not. Who you are, what's important to you, how you live, your values should never be negotiable, compromised, and you should never settle. Again, we have gotten to this point where we've got to say to ourselves, my net worth is not my self-worth.
I think it's really to be true to yourself and listen as much as one is able to other people whose opinions you respect and look up to, but in the end, it has to come from you, and you can't really worry too much by looking to the left or to the right about what the competition might be doing or other people in your field might be doing. It has to be a true vision.
The only thing that stops you from getting what you want in life is the bullshit story you tell yourself of why you can't have it. You get that? What stops you back is the story, because the story stops you from getting honest. And if you can't get honest with yourself, there's no way you can go. Imagine like this, success in sales and life, it's like a roadmap, right? You know where you want to go, and you have this perfect strategy, the straight line to get there. It's a perfect strategy. It's going to get you there every single time. But if you don't know your starting point, if you're not getting honest with where you actually are, it doesn't matter how powerful the strategy is, and it doesn't matter how powerful your goal is. I'm going to ask you to set a goal today, right? A 60-day goal. And let's say you really set this goal, and I'll show you how to do it in a brilliant way. So it's visceral. So it makes you really feel it. You see it, you sense it, you smell the goal. That's step one. I'm going to teach you the straight line, which is your strategy to get to your goal. But if you're not honest with where you are right now, your starting point, the map is worthless. There's three things that you need to know: where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Those are the three things you must have to take advantage of any opportunity. I'm going to give you the strategy. I'm going to ask you to tell me exactly where you want to go for yourself. You got to get honest. Don't blame the boss. Don't blame the leagues. Don't blame your job. Don't blame the industry you're in. Just get honest. If you don't like your industry, find another one.
My life changed a couple years ago when I discovered something called the Progress Principle. It is a principle that was written about in the Harvard Business Review. It's based on a tremendous amount of research done by a professor over there. And what she determined is that people that feel happy and successful and fulfilled by their lives and work, they all have one thing in common. They feel as though they're making progress on something that matters. So I read this little bit of research and I started applying it to my life. And what I do, as stupid as this sounds, it really works. I don't focus on balancing everything. I focus on just making sure that I make progress on one thing a day. That's right, you heard me. One thing a day that matters to me. Now, if I can make progress on one thing a day that matters to me, then I can let go and let the rest of my day get hijacked by kids, by spouse, by phone calls, by emails, by social media, by all kinds of things that come up and tend to hijack your day when you're a busy person, when you have a family, when you're married, when you got a lot going on. And so by focusing on one thing a day, I feel the sense of control and the sense of progress that science tells us will make you happy and make you feel more confident and actually make you more effective at getting things done. It also frees me up to be more present with my kids.
I was just having a debate with a friend of mine, and we got stuck on the difference between fault and responsibility. She kept talking about how something was somebody's fault, it's somebody's fault. And I was like, it don't matter whose fault it is that something is broken if it's your responsibility to fix it. For example, it's not somebody's fault if their father was an abusive alcoholic, but it's for damn sure their responsibility to figure out how they're going to deal with those traumas and try to make a life out of it. It's not your fault if your partner cheated and ruined your marriage, but it is for damn sure your responsibility to figure out how to take that pain and how to overcome that and build a happy life for yourself. Fault and responsibility do not go together. It sucks, but they don't. When something is somebody's fault, we want them to suffer. We want them punished. We want them to pay. And we want it to be their responsibility to fix it, but that's not how it works, especially when it's your heart. Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone. As long as we're pointing the finger and stuck in whose fault something is, we're jammed and trapped into victim mode. When you're in victim mode, you are stuck in suffering. The road to power is in taking responsibility. Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone.
If you're hungry and you eat, well, that's good, but it's over and then you're on to the next thing, right? It's not exactly sustaining, it's just necessary. That's called consummatory reward, by the way. This other reward system is incentive reward. And the incentive reward system works on dopamine, this neurochemical dopamine, which is also the neurochemical tracks that opiates and cocaine and amphetamines, the drugs that people really like to abuse, alcohol often for some people, activate. And so you might say if you don't have enough meaning in your life, then you're more prone to addiction. And that's definitely the case, even with rats. If you take a rat and you put him in a cage by himself and he has nothing to do, and then you give him access to cocaine, he'll get addicted to the point where he won't do anything but take cocaine. But if you throw the rat back in with a bunch of other rats and he gets to do rat things, then it's very hard to get him addicted to cocaine. And so the purposeless rat is prone to addiction. Well, it's the same with human beings. Now, here's a corollary to that, which is really cool. So the magnitude of the reward you experience as you're moving towards a goal is proportionate to the importance of the goal. So that means the more important the goal you pick, the more possibility there is for the kind of reward, let's say, it's really a state of being that is life-affirming. And it is directly life-affirming in that, you know, like if you're in a football game and it's an important football game and maybe you break a finger, and you know, normally that's a problem. It hurts and you're gonna stop doing whatever you're doing. But if you're right in the middle of the game, then you'll be so amped up on this reward system that it's analgesic. It stops the pain. It also suppresses anxiety. So if you have a purpose, then it's analgesic. It takes some of the pain out of life. It's very positive in that it motivates and energizes you and focuses you and makes you able to remember and pay attention. And it quells fear. And so those things are all direct. And so then you might think, well, what's the best possible goal? Well, and that's the purpose, I would say, of religious training and philosophical training. It's like, just what the hell are you doing in the world?
You know, you're always affected by opinion, but the more opinions there are of you, of me, the less I look at them, because I just can't live my life based upon what other people think about me. So I can't concern myself too much with what other people think. You know, it's just not healthy. I don't think I could continue to do what I do if I was constantly worrying about what somebody thought about it.
One habit that I developed when I was at college, that was actually a very bad habit, which was I like to show people that I didn't do any work and that I didn't go to classes and I didn't care. And then at the very last minute, like 2 days before the test, I'd get serious about it. And people thought that was funny. You know, that was my positioning, the guy who did nothing until the last minute. Then when I went into business, that was a really bad habit. And it took me a couple of years to get over that. Nobody praised me because I would do things at the last minute, and I tried to reverse to students I'd actually I didn't think that highly of, who were always organized and had things done on time. I'm still working on it, but procrastination is not a good habit.
Bill can change clothes in the car.
You stare at your past and you'll end up staying there. It's okay to look back and admire it, but you carry on. I'm not in the business of staring back at it. You know what I mean? And getting lost back there. People say a loss can make or break a fighter, but trust me, a win can also make or break a fighter, because they get comfortable with a win. People can get comfortable with a win, and slack off then. Slack off on the training, slack off on the diet. They've won one. They're winners now. That's not me, you know. You sleep on a win and you'll wake up with a loss. So I just carry on, keep doing what I'm doing, and that's why this turnaround is so good for me. Vegas straight away, the Fighting Irish head to the fighting capital. It's perfect. Continue on this path, the freight train straight to the top.
I talk to so many smart, fantastic, ambitious, idealistic, hard-working kids, and they're right out of college, they're in their entry-level jobs, and I'll ask them, how's it going? And they'll say, I think I'm gonna quit. And I'm like, why? They say to me, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you know you've been here 8 months, right? They treat the sense of fulfillment or even love like it's a scavenger hunt, like it's something you look for. My millennial friends, they've gone through so many jobs. They're either getting fired, I mean, it was mutual, or they're quitting because they're not making an impact, or they're not finding the thing they're looking for, they're not feeling fulfilled, as if it's a scavenger hunt. Love, a job you find joy from, is not something you discover. It's not like, I found love. Here it is. I found a job I love. That's not how it works. Both of those things require hard work. You are in love because you work very hard every single day of your life to stay in love. You find a job that brings you ultimate joy because you work hard every single day to serve those around you, and you maintain that joy. It's not a discovery. But the problem is this sense of impatience. It's as if an entire generation is standing at the foot of a mountain. They know exactly what they want. They can see the summit. What they can't see is the mountain. This large, immovable object. That doesn't mean you have to do your time. That's not what I'm talking about. Take a helicopter, climb, I don't care. But there's still a mountain. Life, career fulfillment, relationships are journeys. The problem is, this entire generation has an institutionalized sense of impatience. And do they have the patience to go on the journey to maintain love, to feel fulfilled? Or do they just quit and on to the next, dump and on to the next, ghost and on to the next?
The nature of capitalism is that people want to come in and take your castle. It's perfectly understandable. I mean, if I'm selling television sets or something, there's going to be 10 other people that are going to try and sell a better television set. If I have a restaurant here in Omaha, people are going to try and copy my menu and give more parking and take my chef and so on. So capitalism's all about somebody coming and trying to take the castle. Now, what you need is a castle that has some durable competitive advantage, some castle that has a moat around it. And that moat, one of the best moats in many respects, is to be a low-cost producer. But sometimes the moat is just having more talent. I mean, if you're the heavyweight champion of the world and you keep knocking out people, you've got a competitive advantage as long as you can keep doing it. And it's very profitable if you're the one that happens to be able to do it. If you can turn out great motion pictures, I mean, Steven Spielberg, I mean, he's a fellow to bet on, and it has enormous economic value.
Make a list of 10 things, 10 goals that you'd like to accomplish in the next year or so, and ask this question. If I could only accomplish one goal on this list, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on my life? If you could only accomplish one goal in life, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on your life? Now, for most people, especially when you're maturing in your career, when you're growing up, the biggest goal is money. If you had money, then you could buy a house, home, car, family, lifestyle, and so on. So that's quite normal. For other people, it may be a health goal. For business owners, maybe a business goal. For people with relationship problems, maybe a relationship goal. But ask yourself, if you could achieve one goal or resolve one problem, and remember, a problem unsolved is merely a goal unachieved, which one would it be? And write that down and make that the major definite purpose of your life. Make it the central organizing principle of your life.
You can't give away what you don't have. Now, it sounds ridiculous, okay? But it's more than what meets the ear as you hear this. You can't give away what you don't have. People who are not good at giving away love can't give away love because they don't have it to give away. If I want to give you a dozen oranges, I can't give you those dozen oranges unless I go out and pick up 12 oranges someplace. Otherwise, all it is just empty rhetoric. And the same thing is true of virtually everything in your life. You can't give away love for others if you don't have love in here to give away. If what you have in here is contempt, if what you have in here is anger, if what you have in here is fear, then these are the things you're going to be giving away in your life.
Talking about past and future and excessive emphasis on past and future in your life, yes, of course you need to have, there's nothing wrong with having a certain intention of what you want to achieve, take steps towards it. It's part of living here in this dimension. You can't just say, I'm never going to plan anything anymore, just take life as it comes. Well, some people try to do that, but they're not that happy either after a while. So then your life will get very diffused. And so to have an intention, to make a plan, perfectly fine. Either a short-term plan, like I'm going to meet you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. How would you ever meet anybody if we didn't have time? And future on a practical level, of course it's needed. The question is whether future takes over your mind. Being able to use it for practical purposes is of course great, but I call that clock time is fine, but psychological time is when the future takes over your mind and your entire thought patterns are geared only towards future, and you treat the present moment as either just a means to an end because it enables you to get to the next one. You're always reaching out, so to speak, internally to the next, yet never quite here, always looking for some fulfillment there, so you can never embrace the fullness of now, or you make the now into even an enemy. Some people are always unhappy. Perhaps we all know one or two people like that.
3.
Who are, wherever they are, they're complaining it's never quite right. Wherever they are or whoever they are with, after a little while, they're very uncomfortable again. They should be somewhere else. You know the bumper sticker that you see in some cars, in various versions of it, says, I'd rather be golfing. And then another one says, I'd rather be fishing. I'd rather be this, I'd rather be there. When I visited the spiritual teacher Ram Dass, who lives in Hawaii, he has a bumper sticker on. Ram Dass was the person who, in the 70s, wrote the book Be Here Now. Anyway, he has a bumper sticker on his car that says, I'd rather be here now. And then you realize you can still pursue whatever an intention, where you want to get to, a plan. I call that, it's a bit like a journey. Your life is a journey. You're going, you want to go from here to there. Whether you're going to get there, we don't know. Maybe on the way you'll branch out to somewhere else. But at least you have a certain direction. It's good to have some direction in your life. But while you are traveling, if your destination takes up most of your attention and you're continuously focusing on there, you miss all the journey, really. You can't enjoy the journey anymore. And most of your life is the journey. The arriving is relatively rare. The wedding, and a few more graduation, but so those moments are not the far and few between. So the rest is the journey. And if you can't enjoy the journey, which means the step you're taking at this moment is really the most important thing. Yes, of course, you're going that way, but this step is still to be enjoyed, because that's ultimately your whole life consists of the step you're taking at this moment. There is never anything else.
Complete the day and leave no tasks that I have to finish in the morning. It's that's it. And so it's not necessarily that I have a specific order, but there are particular things that I do. Number one, totally set up the kids. So that means pack their lunches. It means get the backpacks ready if it's school season and get them by the door. It means if there's any forms that need to be filled out or printed or anything else, if they are printed, they are ready to go. So kids are handled. Second thing, I want the kitchen clean. I don't ever want to wake up in the morning and walk in there and see crap that I have to do. I don't want dishes in the sink. I don't want things on the counter. And so I make sure that the kitchen is clean, that the counters are cleared off, and that there is nothing I need to do in the kitchen because it will distract me in the morning. I will feel guilt. I will feel obligated to get that done. Third thing that I do is I tend to set out the stuff for breakfast. And the reason why I do that is because my kids will wake up at various times. And so if I've got that thing set up, I've just bought myself a couple more minutes of quiet in the morning before the parade of children come running down the stairs, starving and wanting breakfast. The other thing that I do is I go to my computer and I print out the day calendar for the day ahead. And then I take that printout and I take my notebook that has all of my travel and kind of everything that's laid out for the business that I run and my speaking schedule and stuff related to the kids, and I move it all to the kitchen. Now, why am I doing this? I'm doing this so that when I leave my bedroom in the morning and I walk into the kitchen to have 30 minutes of quiet time for myself, to get focused, to plan my priorities, everything's set. It's all been handled. There's no thinking involved. It's amazing. Then, once that's all handled, I turn off all the lights, I lock the front door. When I walk into my bedroom, the very first thing that I do, I set my alarm, and then I plug my phone in my closet.
If you want to make progress in things, I think that the best analytical framework for understanding the future is physics. I'd recommend studying the thinking process around physics, like not the equations. I mean, the equations certainly they're helpful, but the way of thinking in physics is it's the best framework for understanding things that are counterintuitive, and always taking the position that you are to some degree wrong, and your goal is to be less wrong over time. I think one of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. Like you want something to be true, even if it isn't true. And so you ignore the things that, you ignore the real truth because of what you want to be true. This is a very difficult trap to avoid. And like I said, it's certainly one that I find myself in having problems with. But if you just take that approach of you're always to some degree wrong, and your goal is to be less wrong, and solicit critical feedback, particularly from friends. Like friends, particularly friends, if somebody loves you, they want the best for you. They don't want to tell you the bad things. So you have to ask them, and say, really, I really do want to know. and then they'll tell you.
You can do more. You can do more than you ever imagined. I was broke at 25 years old. Broke, okay? Every 2 years I get one of these cars. The people at Rolls-Royce like, hey, we want to send you another one of those cars, okay? How you want it? How you want it dressed? What color you want it? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy the life I'm living right now. We did a conference. There was 10,000 people in the room and another 10,000 people online. All of them paid to be there. I remember when I couldn't get 2 people to show up at a party in high school because I was so disliked. You can do more than you think you can, is my message to you today. You will live longer than you think, I promise you, okay? You can do more than you think you can.
I'm always looking for new ways to explain the power of the 5-second rule and the power of 5-second decisions. And I read something that Tim Ferriss said that really resonated with me. And he had this one line buried in a podcast somewhere that just jumped out, and it's stuck. And what he said is, he said something about how there's a gap between the world and the things that trigger you and your response. And your entire life is that gap. When you start to, this is not what he said, he kind of identified this gap, and I, of course, intrinsically was like, well, absolutely, that's the 5-second window between instinct or stimulus and your reaction. And when you start to understand that your whole life plays out in this 5-second gap, and that there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between fear and courage, and there's a gap that's 5 seconds long between self-doubt and confidence, that is your life. And what's super cool about understanding that your whole life is inside this gap is it's so small, everybody, that you have the ability to control it. Life's always gonna throw triggers at you, and there will always be all kinds of cool things that inspire you, your wisdom, and you get to choose what happens in that gap. Do you succumb to an excuse, or do you push yourself forward? When you start to speak up in business, you'll be shocked at how you start to speak up in your relationships. When you start to make hard phone calls, whether it's in a selling situation, you'll be surprised at how you'll start to close the gap and have hard conversations in your personal life. And so that gap is everywhere, and it's the same everywhere. And when you start to go to work in controlling how you live in that gap between stimulus or idea and your response, that's where the magic is.
I talked to my dad, I talked to Warren, I talked to my wife, Melinda. So I have enough people that know me and actually know where my judgment isn't its strongest, where I might get overexcited about something or, forget to think about something. And so they're good at correcting, particularly Melinda, good at correcting whatever those blind spots are. And I think it's good to encourage your friends and advisors to really give them that license. I can go to a party and forget to say hello to various people or something. That's a very minor example of my blind spots.
Not to the hostess.
Melinda would help me do that.
Yeah, she would,
yeah. A small number of people that you can turn to on certain key things is a great asset.
Every gym had a set way of doing things. Don't do it this way, do it that way. So that was just a normal thing that I thought just people just have their own set way, and you must do it that way. You must stand this way, you must kick this way, you must punch this way. But with John, when I went to John, and I met my coach John Kavanagh at Straight Blast Gym, it wasn't like that. He had a more open mind, and he encouraged different movements. And I'd never experienced that before. I'd never heard a coach say that to me before. And that stuck in my head. You know, I thought to myself, you know, this guy is thinking outside the box, you know what I mean? That he has a vision that everything works, and he encourages every movement, because ultimately there is a time and a place for every single move. So I just knew when I met John, and when he spoke, it made complete sense to me, and that was it. I stuck with him, and he stuck with me, and the rest is history.
Because it's fun, you're willing to work your face off.
Right.
And working your face off is actually the gateway. It's not the fun. The fun is the doorway that gets you to put in the work, that gets you the results. Because D-Rock loves filming, like the 24/7 nature of what he does is, you know, is why so many kids want to film and do this, but they don't want to, it's not fun enough for them. You have to love it. So, the cost of entry now is, you see, understand? You have to love, like for me, building brands, whether it's my own brand, brands for other people, other things, the why, it's so the only thing I give a shit about that I'm willing to put in the 19 that it takes.
Right.
Because the problem is now with the internet, like we were just saying, being the middleman, and everybody can play, there's some kid in Kansas City who's gonna put in the 19.
100%.
Right.
Might even put in 20.
And I don't want any of you little to take my shit. Now what's amazing is though, the biggest thing I didn't know is that's some fun, but there's so much that all those little that are gonna put in the 19 are gonna get theirs too, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So I would say fun's a great gateway to, fun is the precursor to ridiculous amount of work, which then gets you there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I was a young man, I had a revelation that changed my life. I had read articles and sometimes books on time management over the years and made some lists and set some priorities and things like that. And I always felt, however, that my life was the sun and that all the different factors of my life were like planets that orbited around my life. And whether that was physical fitness or socializing or work or time management, they were all planets in orbit. What changed my life was when I realized that time management is the sun and everything that I do is the planets in orbit. Everything we do in life revolves around time because time is life. Time is the substance of our life. Is that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your time management. That everything we have or are or ever will be a direct result of how we use our time. And the wonderful thing is we're always free to choose how we use our time.
We bought into this complete falsehood that at some point you're going to have the courage. At some point you're going to have the confidence, and it's total bullshit. Frankly, are we allowed to swear on this show?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's complete garbage, and so there are so many people in the world, and you know, you may be watching this right now, and you have these incredible ideas, and what you think is missing is motivation. And that's not true, because the way that our minds are wired and the fact about human beings is that we are not designed to do things that are uncomfortable or scary or difficult. Our brains are designed to protect us from those things because our brains are trying to keep us alive. And in order to change, in order to build a business, in order to be the best parent, the best spouse, to do all those things that you know you want to do with your life, with your work, with your dreams, you're going to have to do things that are difficult, uncertain, or scary, which sets up this problem for all of us. You're never going to feel like it. Motivation's garbage. You only feel motivated to do the things that are easy, right?
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I know exactly why that is. Because I've studied this so much, because for me, one of the hardest things to figure out was why is it so hard to do the little things that would improve my life? And what I've come to realize, and what we'll talk a lot about today, is that the way that our minds are designed is our minds are designed to stop you at all costs from doing anything that might hurt you. And the way that this all happens is it all starts with something super subtle that none of us ever catch. And that is with this habit that all of us have that nobody's talking about. We all have a habit of hesitating. We have an idea, you're sitting in a meeting, you have this incredible idea, and instead of just, saying it, you stop and you hesitate. Now, what none of us realize is that when you hesitate, just that moment, that micro moment, that small hesitation, it sends a stress signal to your brain. It wakes your brain up, and your brain all of a sudden goes, oh, wait a minute, why is he hesitating? He didn't hesitate when he put on his killer spiky sneakers. He didn't hesitate with the really cool track pants. He didn't hesitate with the NASA t-shirt. Now he's hesitating to talk, something must be up. So then your brain goes to work to protect you. It has a million different ways to protect you. One of them is called the spotlight effect. It's a known phenomenon where your brain magnifies risk. Why? To pull you away from something that it perceives to be a problem. And so you can truly trace every single problem or complaint in your life to silence and hesitation. Those are decisions. And what I do and what's changed my life is waking up and realizing that motivation's garbage. I'm never going to feel like doing the things that are tough or difficult or uncertain or scary or new. So I need to stop waiting until I feel like it. And number two, I am one decision away from a totally different marriage, a totally different life, a totally different job, a totally different income, a totally different relationship with my kids. Not like one decision, I'm divorcing you in the marriage example, but one decision on, you could be having a conversation with your spouse and you feel your emotions rise up, and within a tiny window, those emotions can take over and can impact how your marriage goes. Or you can learn how to take control of that micro moment and make a decision to act in a way that actually shifts your marriage. Your life comes down to your decisions, and if you change your decisions, you will change everything.